Do that. We'll swap over here onto this screen. We're talking about some D&D stuff some more. D&D things have been getting weird. The Wizards of the Coast's Sinister OGL scheme. We already done a video on this, but I want to watch another one with it and just see how the things have developed over time.
Friday, Wizards of the Coast gave us what is called a On Friday, Wizards of the Coast gave us what is called a Friday news dump. WOTC posted their response to the extreme backlash that they're experiencing right now regarding their planned release of a new version of the open.
Yeah, this post was a joke, by the way. It was like the fucking worst post they could have ever done. When you're in a big issue like this, you have two options. You either submit to the demands or you don't say anything. And they did not do either of those things.
Gaming license, or OGL. And they hoped that we'd all forget about it over the weekend. Now, I'm gonna walk through all of the bullcrap, lies, and gaslighting that I see in their statement. However, there is something very important that I need to discuss with everyone, and especially other content creators and publishers. I've personally been talking to a contact, someone who was heavily involved in the creation of OGL version 1.0a back in the day. I'm not going to say who because I'm not sure they would want their identity to be known. But based on those conversations, corroborated by what we've heard Ryan Dancy say in his recent interview on Roll for Combat, and corroborated by others, many lawyers, Wizards of the Coast doesn't really have a leg to stand on as far as revoking or deauthorizing OGL version 1.0a goes. And Wizards of the Coast themselves probably knows that. So instead of issuing a blanket revocation notice of OGL version 1.0a, they are attempting to do something much more sinister. They want us to voluntarily give up our rights to use OGL version 1.0a by signing and agreeing to OGL version 1.1, which will include language that revokes our right to use the current OGL. It's really quite simple. If they can't revoke version 1.0a, they will trick and bully us into voluntarily revoking our own rights to use it. So, I predict that this is what we're going to continue to see. Wizards of the Coast will continue to backpedal on the provisions in version 1.1, making them a better and better deal for content creators. And why? Well, because their true goal is to get us to sign it and voluntarily give up our rights to use version 1.0a. That's what they really want. Because
That makes
they
sense.
know
That's
that
what I would do.
taking it to court could go horribly wrong for them. And besides,
Honestly,
so long as version 1.1 contains a provision allowing them to change the terms with only 30 days notice, WOTC knows that they can change the license at any time, shifting the terms back to what they originally wanted or worse. So I think this is the message for all content creators. Don't even think about signing OGL version 1.1. It's perhaps the worst possible thing you could do. I mean, unless, of course, you want to put yourself 100% at the mercy of WOTC. And from what we've seen from their senior leadership there over the last couple of weeks, I'm not sure I would wish that upon my worst enemy. Anyway, now that I've gotten that off my chest, because I think it was something very, very important that needed to get out there for people to consider, let's dig through their statement from last Friday. Okay, their very first paragraph right here opens up with an elaborate smokescreen intended to obfuscate their actual motivations. First, they claim they don't want D&D content to be used in hateful and discriminatory products, but they could already revoke an individual's OGL license to begin with, so no update.
yeah, but like, so the problem with that too is that hateful and discriminatory could be like pretty much anything. That's so blanket statement. That's not even like there's not enough specifics in that to actually be like it's not concrete enough for it to like be used defensively and offensively. Like at that point you can just say anything's discriminatory. So
it was really needed. Second, they talk about their deep concern about using D&D in blockchain and NFTs and the like. And then they discuss another deep concern, major corporations using D&D for their own commercial and promotional purposes. Let's just blow away the smokescreen for a second, shall we? What is WOTC actually saying? They want to increase their revenue. They want a bigger slice of the pie. It isn't enough that they made $1 billion last year. They want more, and they want to ensure that they can crowd out any competition. This is big corporations doing what many big corporations do.
I feel like the biggest problem with D&D, or trying to like do what they're trying to do right now, is that D&D is less of a game or a franchise and more of an idea than anything. It's like trying to trademark. It's like trying to trademark air. I don't know. It's like D&D just means imagination, really. Like D&D, they have their own like specific like things they've gotten from other cultures and other like mythos. Like most things in D&D are like mythos creatures. There's not a whole lot of things in D&D that are just like original, like never before seen things. I don't know. It's just weird how like that this is even an issue. This is even an issue, just regarding money, I guess.
Trying to crush the little guys and take away from us everything that we have by throwing around their weight and enlisting a team of lawyers to try to bully us into capitulating. It goes on to say, driving these goals were two simple principles. 1, our job is to be good stewards of the game. And 2, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Nothing about these principles has wavered for a second. Okay, both of these statements are pure rubbish. Good stewards, eh? A good steward would recognize the benefit that the OGL has brought to Wizards of the Coast and D&D over the years and not piss it all away. When the OGL was originally conceived by Ryan Dancy and others involved with the initiative back in the day, they recognized that opening up D&D to allow third parties to create content for it would reinforce the game, bolster it, and strengthen it by increasing the network of people who play the game. A game is only worth as much as the number of people who actually play it, after all. And as far as point number 2 goes, that the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans, while that is certainly true, that's not the only reason. You see, they left something out. It also existed for your benefit, Wizards of the Coast, and over the last 2 decades, you have reaped that benefit, growing into now a billion-dollar company. Content creators around the world have helped spread the love of D&D, created new fans, and driven revenue your...
I mean, D&D is literally bigger than it's ever been. And that's hugely thanked by people like Critical Role, who are the top, Twitch streamer on the platform. I mean, just the actual, like, openness of D&D 5e and the ability to go in and create whatever you want, and the initiative to inspire people to create whatever they want is why the game has gotten so big. It's why I play the game. The inspiration to make and create things is why I play it. It's why I'm a DM. I wouldn't be one if it wasn't for the fact that I could create whatever I want in my world. My entire campaign setting that I'm in right now is completely homebrew, and I'm having a great time with it.
Way. Now, if the executives in charge had bothered to learn more about the game that they are now driving into the ground, they might have known that. But I suspect they were distracted by seeing all of us making money on Kickstarters and Patreon by using the OGL, and they wanted a piece of that pie. The entire pie, in fact. Then they say, that is why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so that their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. You lying sacks of crap. They were not drafts. What draft? What kind of draft of a license, I ask you, is accompanied by a contract for someone to sign? I mean, if the plan all along had been to show drafts to a few major creators to get feedback so that you could make changes per that feedback, why was the drop date for the new OGL version 1.1 set for January 13th? If there was any intention of incorporating feedback, you wouldn't have fixed a date for the release. Unless, of course, you had zero intention of making any changes, but then we're right back to where we began, aren't we? It was never a draft. And it continues. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. Really? Really? Everyone who offered products commercially was going to have to report their products to you. Everyone over $50,000 was going to have to report their revenue. But that's
I mean, that's clear, right? I mean, that's the thing that has everyone's been talking about for a week now. Is that's 100% the case? Is that everything they've said pretty much has been just a lie? I mean, there's nothing in this post that isn't contradicting itself. So
just set that aside for a second, shall we? Because it gets worse. You see, the largest impact to the D&D community, the majority of the D&D community, would come when Wizards of the Coast pushed almost everyone else out of business by trying to revoke or unauthorize version 1.0a of the OGL and force us to sign version 1.1 or stop publishing.
Hello, we know you've been using OGL version 1.A for 23 years and are quite happy. However, you can no longer use it. But if you sign this new OGL, which has horrible terms designed to really screw you over, well then, you can keep on publishing. Thank you and have a nice day.
What this would do is effectively kill third-party publishers and allow WOTC to establish an even greater monopoly over the RPG industry. And that right there is bad for everyone in the D&D community.
Well, not the RPG industry. I feel like that's a little bit chaotic, really. More like a monopoly over its facets of its rule set and the characters of which D&D originate with. So like the most important thing for them is their rule set, the realms of which they created. Those are the things that really they want to control. And if you use them in your set, they have control over it, and they can say, no, we want the money from whatever you made from that. I guess they could change things in the future if you assign it. So that's the biggest problem here, is that they can change the thing whenever they want. And since you signed it already, you've agreed to the future changes that could happen. Which is the biggest concern I think everyone has, to be honest.
Community. Because the fact of the matter is that a lot of Wizards of the Coast products are pretty crappy. Now, not all of them. I personally see their Eberron campaign setting as the gold standard of how a campaign setting should be published, and I have said so multiple times. But then you get real doozies like Strixhaven and Spelljammer. However, there are many third-party publishers like Kobold Press that hit it out of the park and produce objectively better products than Wizards of the Coast themselves. And as big as Wizards of the Coast is, they only publish so much content each year. Who's going to cater to the niche interests of D&D fans when third-party publishers are effectively out of business? Anyway, let's keep reading. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It has become clear.
The thing is that even if D&D people were acting in good faith, which they are not, there is no way they could handle the auditing every homebrew product that people post online, even if it is only for profit. Probably. I mean, definitely, right? I mean, like, the campaign that we're in right now, the one that we're playing with in our little group, Daniel, is based around the only material I've used is Grim Hollow, and it is a lot of the monsters are based around Grim Hollow. So like, if this were to go through, I still don't think they'd have any. I don't think Wizards of the Coast could do anything against Grim Hollow. From what I heard, I got a TLDR from the Legal Eagle video, is that they actually can't affect like anything that is made by fans. They can only affect content that's created based off of the original rule set and the original characters and stories. So if someone makes Grim Hollow and they publish that book, they can still do that. Like, I don't think that they can actually, even WOTC can't do anything about that. They can't affect that at all. And they can't get any, as long as it's not connected to the original rule set or the original characters involved inside of the original things that the company's made, then they can't really affect people who make content that isn't related to the original stuff, from what I understand. So, like, the only thing that really matters in this entire thing is the original things created by WOTC. From what I understand, from what I've heard from the Legal Eagle video that came out.
That it is no longer possible to fully achieve all three goals while still staying true to our principles. So here is what we are doing. Stay true to your principles. Okay, first of all, being cutesy at a time like this just fails to miss the mark. We don't want cutesy. We want you to stop ruining the game we love. And your principles? Principles! Please don't even talk to us about your principles, dear senior leadership at Wizards of the Coast. Insider leaks from your own employees, wonderful people who are caught between a rock and a hard place right now, have shown us what you think of D&D fans. We are just obstacles to you getting money. I bet we're becoming even bigger obstacles now that we're canceling our D&D Beyond subscriptions en masse. They continue. The new OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplay, VTT uses, etc. will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. Whoa, stop. Do you see what they just slipped in right there? Protect, cultivate, inclusivity, education, charity, all wonderful things. And then they slid that last little statement right in there like no one was going to see it. Content already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. I'm not sure we were really concerned about that, really. It's not what has already been released, it's what will be released. In other words, we want you to stop this business of revoking or unauthorizing version 1.0a. That's what we want. You can keep 1D&D and everything that comes after it. I don't want anything to do with it. Many of us right now don't want anything to do with it, as a matter of fact. What we do want for you to do is leave OGL version 1.0a alone in its entirety and allow all of us content creators to carry on as we have been.
The weirdest thing is, like, the wording of that makes it sound like it will have any effect on things created afterwards. But from what I understand from the Legal Eagle, they shouldn't have any legal, like, representation on what people create, even with a change to the OGL. Like, even if someone came out and made Grim Hollow next book after the OGL changes to 1.1, they still shouldn't have any call to it. There should be no claim to it still. Like, from what I understand, from what I read. It's just like fear-mongering from them? I don't know, it's weird.
Without shackling us to a new license. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. It also will not include the license-back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. That thought never crossed our minds. Wait. You're telling me that with all of the eyeballs that looked at OGL version 1.1, executives making millions of dollars, and an expert legal team, etc., that none of you saw this? Like, it never occurred to you that folks might interpret it that way? This is like when one kid punches another kid in the...
I mean, yeah, that could be the case too. Just bullying people so that, like, they won't go to the courts anyway because they don't want to fight it. And there's nothing to gain. They'd lose more than they'd gain. They get bullied out of it. I guess it's true. That gives them more grounds to do that if the 1.1 comes out, so that makes sense.
Face and then says,
I wasn't trying to hurt him.
come on, have the decency to come up with better lies. Then later they say, as we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games, that risk is simply too great to ignore. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to the content you create. Your ideas and imagination are what makes the game special, and that belongs to you. First, I do think that many of the people at Wizards of the Coast do indeed love D&D, but the executives behind this OGL debacle clearly do not. I doubt any of them have ever even played the game once, let alone in an ongoing campaign that...
Oh, for sure. There's no way anyone at Hasbro has played D&D. There's no fucking way.
lasted years and created friendships that lasted for life. I have said this before, I will continue to say it. No one who loves D&D...
But I mean, like, that's with all games, by the way. Like, Bobby Kotick has never played a game of World of Warcraft, I'm sure. He's just there to make money, man. Like, that's his guy, that's his job. That's his job, man. Unending profits. That's it. They never end, they never stop. There's never a cap. If we grew 200% last year, we're gonna grow 400% this year. Makes no sense, but we're gonna do it. 400% growth. Let's go.
D&D would act the way executives at Wizards of the Coast and likely Hasbro are acting right now. No one. So please, stop saying that you love this game. We know that all you care about is the money. And we're not done yet, but I promise you, we are getting close. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. This is right. If it had not been for the leaks and the subsequent community outrage, the OGL would have indeed been released today. If you hadn't seen thousands of people canceling their D&D Beyond subscriptions, you would have absolutely pressed forward. Your concern is not getting it right, but minimizing the impact to your bottom line, which is likely taking a beating right now. Okay, and right here is my favorite part of this entire announcement. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won, and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Right there, ladies and gentlemen, is an executive's hubris.
Wait, what?
Ego. Did we?
What is it? I didn't even notice this one. We won't be able to release the OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right. But it is coming. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won and so did we. Bro, that's like an evil person's like... That is like an evil villain's last remark before he gets away. That is literally like the ending sentence of a guy who like leaves the secret lair at the end of the D&D campaign.
Change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. Right there, ladies and gentlemen, is an executive's hubris, their ego on full display. I would love to know who demanded that little nugget of gold get put into their statement. Wizards of the Coast, you don't get it. We were all winning. All of us were winning. Everyone was winning before you did this. You made $1 billion last year. And then also, content creators were making money doing something that we loved. And D&D fans around the world were benefiting from this arrangement. We were all winning. All of us. And then they go on to lie to us again about how they've always intended to get our feedback on the OGL. They lie yet again about the leaked OGL just being a draft. There are some more disingenuous words mixed in, and then they say, thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. It's like my bud over on D&D Shorts said, we're not scared, we're outraged. You have betrayed us, you have stabbed us in the back. And you tried to do it all behind closed doors and the legal screen of NDAs. Then they say, Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. That right there is scary. An OGL that matches the principles of senior leadership at Wizards of the Coast. I think you've already shown us the measure of your principles, and frankly, we don't want any more. They conclude with, "We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down." Listen, Wizards of the Coast, there is only
It's already happened, bud.
one thing we want. Leave OGL version 1.0A alone. Walk away. You can do whatever you want with 1D&D. If you really don't want to let us down, then drop this nonsense of revoking or unauthorizing version 1.0A. That's all you have to do. Now, what can all of us do? All of us D&D fans who love the hobby and don't support Wizards of the Coast's effort to destroy the OGL that has enabled RPGs to flourish over the last 2 decades. First, consider canceling your D&D Beyond subscription and stop buying Wizards of the Coast products. Money is the only language Wizards of the Coast executives speak. Make sure they understand you. Next, take whatever money you would have spent on them and spend it
Canceled mine already.
instead on a third-party publisher or content creator that you support and believe in. I have a Patreon, other creators such as D&D Shorts have Patreons, and there are always amazing Kickstarters going on in the RPG space. I'm going to throw some links down in the description for folks I think you should check out. Remember, we're all in this together. Let's keep fighting to protect our beloved hobby.